Give it a try. Try painting something. God.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christ has returned! I missed you guys massively. I was away for a while. As you can see, I got a beard now. People said that we couldn't grow beards, but we actually could. It's the Rugged Sam look, in stores now while stocks last.
You are a sad, strange little man. And you have my pity.
I was in Europe for a bit. It was my savings from my finance days. That's all gone now. Now it's back to eating breadcrumbs doing YouTube, but that's okay. I missed you guys, and we've got a lot to talk about today.
We do indeed, Sam.
That's great, Alec. Thank you for interjecting there. Very, very valuable. And with that, let's talk about Nintendo and their stock going... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so, what do we know first about Nintendo? Woohoo!
So, some context. Nintendo have been performing very well as of up to 3 months ago in terms of their stock price. They had all the good graces of pretty much everyone, and they've really found their footing and are charging ahead. The Switch was the fastest selling console in a 12-month period in the United States, yep. I believe. I could have that completely wrong.
No, I've heard something like it's the fastest-selling console in some area.
I'm not sure of the period of time with which that is measured, but that is a statistic that is somewhat true.
Yes, and because we're saying it on the internet, it must be true.
Exactly. So, look, they've really, really found themselves in a good spot. And if you ask pretty much anyone who has any idea about anything game-related, they would all universally agree, except for some naysayers for some reason, that Nintendo are kicking goals. Runs on the board, if you will.
Runs on the board, and I actually totally agree with that. I mean, number one, we can see the portability. I mean, yes, we've seen it before with the PS Vita or the PSP, and of course the Game Boy. But the Switch is the first thing that's really. It's a console that's competing with the other consoles for the first time. PlayStation has looked at it. The CEO has made comments on that. I think that we're seeing now a potential shift based on the influence that Switch has now given the market, the IP that it's bringing out. Not only its first-party IP, but also the IP that it also brings now from other third-party developers. It's really making a really great mark on the industry. And I think that, PlayStation and Xbox are really looking at the Switch.
It's a rare instance where a piece of hardware is actually fully delivered on what it intended to do, insofar as, when you're playing it in handheld, you forget you're playing a console.
I agree with that.
When you're playing it on a TV, you sort of forget you're playing a handheld.
So
they've done really well. Anyway, that's well established. Nintendo are great. Not in the eyes of their investors. So, since March, we're talking a period of 4 months, Nintendo stocks have dropped 34%, which is massive.
It is massive. Now, I think that anyone, the layman, which of course is not me, would see that and go, oh my god, this company might be in trouble, or X, Y, and Z, there must be huge problems in the market or the industry or the product itself. Anyone that's been following the Switch understands that it's probably one of the strongest consoles. I would say it's definitely on par with what PlayStation is doing in terms of its strength, its diversity in IP, its leading industry ideas. I don't look at the Nintendo Switch for a moment and go, shit, it's in actually big trouble. I think people, stock people or like shareholders, I'm generalizing here, but maybe not a lot of them are actually gamers. They look at the statistics and go, oh my god, there must be a huge problem here. But what I think is actually happening
There are no statistics to look at. Everything's really good.
Well, it's dropped 30%. What I mean is that it's dropped 34%. That's the statistic that people are looking at and going, "Oh my god, there must be problems here."
Right.
That's what I'm saying. If we look at the E3 showcase, it was a dry showcase. I think anyone that looks at that understands that it didn't stand out. There wasn't a lot of IP. It showed a lot of the stuff that it was already bringing out. Yes, it dropped Fortnite on Switch and stuff like that, and of course it shows some more about, Super Smash, but there wasn't a lot there.
Nintendo's showing at E3 was fairly light. If they'd literally had a 10-minute presentation and said we're bringing out Smash this year, I would have thought it was a 10 out of 10, because I'm a big fan. But look, I mean, what did they have? They had Fortnite, which is obviously huge. I mean, it hit 2 million downloads in the first 24 hours. Fortnite really does have the potential to move systems. The portable nature of Fortnite on the Switch is a system seller. And it's rare that you'd get an instance of a third-party game, let alone a free-to-play game, having that kind of potential, the weight behind it.
I agree.
So look, that's obviously massive, but it's Fortnite, and people have already playing that everywhere else. You had Fire Emblem. You really wanted to say something there.
I was just going to say, you continue. You may continue. You may continue. Because I'll come off the back of this.
Okay, Sam
doesn't sound right.
Sam will just ruin it.
I'll come off the back of this. It doesn't sound right. But continue.
Fire Emblem. You had Fortnite. You had Pokemon. You had some DLC for Xenoblade. You had Mario Party.
Yeah.
That's their showing.
And that's fine. Because what I think is, when you've been so aggressive with your IP, first parties and third parties, in the first year of the Switch coming out, it's okay sometimes to come out with a showcase that's a bit like... I was disappointed with that showcase, but the more I thought of it, the more I thought, okay, you know, they've got so much great IP in the first 12 months. It's okay if they're a little bit dry on what else they're going to be bringing out. But what I'm trying to say here is, a lot of people that don't understand gaming can look at that and think, oh my god, there might be a potential problem with Nintendo. There's no problem whatsoever. They've flooded us with fantastic games in the last 12 months. For them to kind of sit back for a second and not deliver a fantastic showcase like they did last year, it's okay. They did win Game of the Year last year with Zelda. Like, they're doing good here. What I purely don't understand is, how did their stocks drop 34%? It's like crazy.
Look, well, it's important to talk about, or at least try to talk about, because I don't really know, why 34% of the decline in stocks would have been seen since March.
Yeah.
The long and short is, and as this author puts forward, and I tend to agree, is I don't think Nintendo investors are that astute. So that we're talking about the same investors that basically doubled Nintendo's stock price off the back of Pokemon Go, which is a game made by Niantic using the license of Pokemon, which is only a third owned by Nintendo. I mean, like, that's pretty stupid.
It's not necessarily stupid, because it did take the world by storm, and they've got a finger in the pie. I can understand.
It was a flash in the pan. Who talks about Pokemon Go now?
Flash in the pan, everybody. Yes. The fact is, they had a finger in the pie, okay, and they were benefiting that. Every single Pokemon game that always comes out on Nintendo's, so of course they're gonna get the lion's share of that IP. Now, because it doubled,
100% increase, 100%.
I see what you're saying. That's pretty crazy, but you know, we've seen before the stock market can just jump up and down on the smallest of whims.
We've got the stock analyst here. Sam.
Yeah, you know.
Got Jordan Belfort.
You got to bump those numbers up.
Here, man.
All right. You got to bump those numbers up.
So, I mean, it might not necessarily be a case of Nintendo investors actually having an idea of what they're doing.
I think you're right there. Like, we look at Nintendo, we see that they've done a lot of great things. It's dropped 34%, and it could have been because a lot of other showcases showed a lot of IP, a lot of new releases, and a lot of great products coming out in the market. Nintendo didn't deliver this year. People, especially in the stock market, can be very short-sighted. They've seen that there's...
But Nintendo have delivered this year, let's make that clear.
They have delivered, of course. There's a lot of great stuff coming out, but when we look at the other showcases, a lot of you know, people look at E3 and go, how did you perform in E3? Nintendo, I believe, was one of the weaker ones that performed. There wasn't as much IP. It wasn't as big as a showcase. There wasn't a lot of talk around it. We already knew what was coming out. Fortnite was already leaked. Super Smash Bros. We already knew that it was coming out. There wasn't a lot of stuff that made people go, "Oh my God, Switch is like crazy." People already knew. So that's why I think a lot of those people that either are short-sighted in the stock market or don't know a lot about games would have kind of jumped ship with Nintendo not having the confidence compared to, you know, a big showcase like Xbox or a really massive IP lineup that PlayStation had.
So look, I think that the interesting thing here is that we've seen this decline since March. And so the reason that it's so unusual is that these numbers maybe could make sense if E3 was in March. But it's only 3 weeks ago. The fact that this trend has been happening for the last 3 months is where it becomes a bit unusual. And so we could theorize until Kingdom Come. I think that, you know, it's really strange to see a product that has performed so well commercially, performed so well in terms of the market mind share of how the consumers and the users of that product regard it, and then to have this stock decline is so unusual.
I agree.
So I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think it's a blip on the radar. I think Nintendo are really powering ahead and doing some amazing stuff. But I mean, off the back of this, just quickly, Nintendo have actually been forced to acknowledge that they haven't released or announced their full 2018 lineup. So they've got more games to announce for this year's release window. and they only mention that to assure their investors that it's all G. I think we're seeing a different Nintendo and a stronger Nintendo, so I don't think there's anything to worry about.
No, I don't think there's anything to worry about at all. If anything, I still think that they will be in the running to kind of potentially beat PlayStation in terms of market share, how much Switch is selling, but everyone will keep you posted as usual. It's so good to be back. I know you guys missed me. Cactar missed me, didn't you, Cactar?
Shut the fuck up, Sam. This show is much better without you.
Alright, well, go fuck yourself, Cactar. It's great to be back, and I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Here we go!
Give it a try. Try painting something. Oh my God.